Right? Who should be making these constraints? That's what the decisions do. They make constraints down below them. And if you can't answer that question, you're probably going to have more complicated and messed up and harder to run software projects than if you have a clarity about who's making these decisions.
I think
Earl, you and I have never talked to anybody about these kind of problems. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. That's right. So I think
I think, and Steve said this earlier, I think you really can set yourself up for having more complexity in your ecosystem than you actually need to have.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think people create complexity by just not being clearer about the decision process that needs to be made. Mark, you wanted to direct us somewhere.
Yeah, I just was going to drag it back to the business conversation a little bit, right? I mean, Jenny, you mentioned product owners or product managers who have responsibility for, maybe Earl, this is some of what you're saying as well, is where the guardrails are, where the constraints are, right? I mean, you in a perfect world with engineers who are just free thinkers, you just have this wild, unrestricted space in which to think about solutions, right? And you don't necessarily have that. You have time constraints, you have budget constraints, you have external shareholder constraints, stakeholder constraints, etc. So how do you utilize those roles perhaps in terms of how a complex problem ends up getting architected? How do you use those roles effectively? Is there a better approach for a product owner or a product manager to help drive a solution in one of those spaces?
Well, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Because I think you're talking about guardrails. I mean, to me, one of the key guardrails that we seem to forget is the economics. I mean, sure, we could write code to do a bazillion different things, but how many of them are actually going to make us any kind of money? And so tempering everything at a product level, at a product owner level with of the things that we could spend money on, which of the things that we could spend money on are the ones that are the most likely to give us a good return on investment, thus throwing away a lot of things. Yeah, we could write code that does that, but in the end, was that really a good return on investment? And so step one, let's do an economic analysis of the different possibilities and say, which ones are likely to give us a good return on investment. Now, if I'm not sure, I mean, okay, we may be able to say, sure, if we build this, a lot of people will buy it. We're not sure we're able to build it. The point here is this is where prototyping comes in. And this is getting back to Patrick. This is the learning. And so the number one guardrail in most organizations, I'm basically saying, has to be economic. Where are we getting a maximum return on the investment that we're about to make, and not be just throwing money at the walls, which to basically throw a dart at Paul Allen.